Hello there, fourth graders. Welcome to your next math lesson. Today's math lesson is called Addition, Properties, and Subtraction Rules. So please open up your math notebook to the next available page and write that title at the top. Oh, whoops. My bad. Addition, Properties, and Subtraction Rules. Okay, addition properties and subtraction rules. I know that title looks a little messy, sorry about that, but it's hard to fit it all in there. Okay, so there's three addition properties that we're going to go over today. And first of all, what is a property? A property is a rule or law in mathematics that the numbers always follow. So, what are these three addition properties? Well, the first one is the commutative property of addition. And what is the commutative property of addition? Let's scribble that out a little better. What is the commutative property of addition? Well, it says that the order in which numbers are added does not change the sum. So basically, when you're adding numbers, you can change the order of the numbers that you're adding and the answer still stays the same. So for instance, 7 plus 8 equals 15, right? Well, we can change the order of the 7 and the 8. We can say 8 plus 7 equals 15. So it's pretty simple. It's just when you're adding, it doesn't matter which order you add the numbers in, the answer or the sum still stays the same. And that's why when you're adding, both of the numbers being added, they're both called the same word. They're both addends. So that's also why when you're subtracting, it's minuend minus subtrahend. Notice they're not the same word. That's why you can't switch them around. They're not the same thing. But when you're adding, they're both addends. So you can switch them around. It doesn't matter which of them comes first. So the simplest way to show this property is to write an equation like this. 3 plus 6 equals the same thing as 6 plus 3. So again, that's the commutative property of addition. Let's just write a few more examples of it. Maybe 9 plus 5 equals the same thing as 5 plus 9. Or to do another example, 4 plus 8 equals the same thing as 8 plus 4. Again, that's the commutative property of addition. And so sometimes you'll be given an unknown problem. Remember, an unknown is where there's an unknown number in the problem and you have to find out what it is. And sometimes it's really easy if you can use the commutative property to find out what it is. Like let's say it was unknown plus 2 equals 2 plus 7. Well, since both sides of this equal sign have to be the same, because that's what the equal sign means, that this side is equal to this side, and since both have a 2 on it, that means the unknown number has to be the same as this 7. So you can use the commutative property to know that that unknown has to be 7. 7 plus 2 equals 2 plus 7. So that's the commutative property of addition. Again, it says that the order in which numbers are added does not change the sum. The next one is the associative property of addition. The associative property of addition. Oh, and by the way, back to the commutative property of addition for a second. One way that you can remember that's what the commutative property is you can just remember that the word commute kind of means to move. Like if your dad has to commute to work, it means he works in one town, but he lives in another town. So he commutes from the town he lives in to the town he works in and back and forth every day. So the word commute, one of the meanings of that word is to move from one place to another place. And the commutative property is the one where the numbers move around. See here, the 3 comes first and the 6 comes second. That's equal to here, the 6 comes first and the 3 comes second. So the 3 and the 6 moved around, they switched places. That's the commutative property. Okay, moving on to the associative property. The associative property says that the way in which numbers are grouped does not change the sum. And the way we group numbers is with parentheses. So here's an example of the associative property. 3 plus 5 plus 6 with the 3 and the 5 in parentheses equals the same thing as 3 plus 5 plus 6 with the 5 and the 6 in parentheses. So notice on this one, the numbers didn't move, the parentheses moved. The numbers didn't move, the way they were grouped changed. So here, the 3 and the 5 are grouped, that means they're in parentheses, but it's still 3 plus 5 plus 6, the same three numbers as over here. But over here, the 5 and the 6 are grouped. They're the ones that are in parentheses. So here, the 3 and the 5 are hanging out together inside of the parentheses. They're associating with each other, the associative property, and the 6 is left out. Whereas over here, the 5 and the 6 are hanging out together inside of the parentheses. Again, they're associating with each other. They're grouped inside of the parentheses, and the 3 is left out. But it's still the same three numbers. 3 plus 5 plus 6 equals 3 plus 5 plus 6. Let's do another example. Let's say we have 2 plus 9 plus 7 with the 9 and the 7 in parentheses. That equals the same thing as 2 plus 9 plus 7 with the 9 and the 2 in parentheses. So the way the numbers are grouped changed, but the numbers didn't change, so the answer is still the same. All that changed is the order in which you solve it. Because remember and we actually haven't learned this yet, it's coming later on in the year, but the order of operations says you do what's in parentheses first, because you follow PEMDAS. Parentheses, exponents, multiply and divide, and then add and subtract. So here we would do the 3 plus the 5 first, and we would get 8. And then we'd add that to 6, and we'd get 14. Whereas here we'd add the 5 and the 6 first, and we'd get 11, and then we'd add that to the 3, and we'd still get 14. So you get 14 either way. It just changes the order in which you get that answer, but it doesn't change the answer itself. And again, sometimes you can use this, this property to find an unknown. Like let's say it said unknown plus 8 plus 1 equals 5 plus 8 plus 1. And here the 8 and the unknown are grouped together, and here the 8 and the 1 are grouped together. Well, all you have to do is look and see what's the missing number on this side of the equal sign that is on this side of the equal sign. And it's even in the same place, because with the associative properties, the numbers don't move, the parentheses do. So since it's 5 plus 8 plus 1 over here, it's unknown plus 8 plus 1 over here, all we have to do is say, okay, if they really are equal, we need that same 5 on this side of the equal sign, we need it on this side of the equal sign too. So that has to be a 5. Okay, that's the associative property of addition. And again, you can remember that it's the associative property by just thinking of the word associate. To associate with someone means to kind of like hang out with them. And so the numbers are hanging out with each other inside of the parentheses. And there's always two numbers hanging out in parentheses and a third number left out. But which numbers are hanging out and which number is left out is different on each side of the parentheses. But since it's still the same numbers being added together, it's still the same answer. Okay, the last property is called the identity property of addition. And the identity property of addition is really simple. It's just the sum of any number and 0 equals the number. Basically, that's just another way of saying anything plus 0 equals itself. So like 8 plus 0 equals 8. That one's pretty simple. Anything plus 0 equals itself. 8 plus 0 equals 8. Or for another example, 5 plus 0 equals 5. Or 0 plus 6 equals 6. And sometimes you might see an unknown where knowing this property can help you solve it. Like maybe it says 7 plus unknown equals 7. Well, if there's a 7 here and a 7 here, and there's an equal sign there, then it has to be equal on both sides of the equal sign. They have to balance out, and the only way they can balance out is if this is a 0. Because if you put any other number there, it'll make the left side of the equal sign heavier. It'll make the left side of the equal sign bigger. And you can't have that. It has to be equal. Okay, so those are the properties, the 3 addition properties, and then there's also 2 subtraction rules. So the first subtraction rule is when you subtract 0 from any number, the result is the number. So like, let's say it's 22 minus 0 equals 22. That's pretty simple, right? For another example, 7 minus 0 equals 7. So when you subtract 0 from any number, the result is the number that you started with. And then the second subtraction rule is when you subtract any number from itself, the answer is 0. So for instance, maybe 9 minus 9 equals 0. Or another example of that could be 7 minus 7 equals 0. Okay? So those are those 2 subtraction rules. Again, it's when you subtract 0 from any number, the result is the number. Or also when you subtract any number from itself, the result is 0. So those are the 3 addition properties and the 2 subtraction rules. I hope you found this lesson interesting. And don't forget to take the quiz, which is attached beneath this video in the Google Classroom. And I will catch you next time. Mr. Dauber, signing off. If I can figure out how to sign off. There we go.